Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the Business of Creativity podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pepperdine Graziadio Business School. I am joined by Atalie Oliva.
Yes.
Atalie is currently in the fully employed MBA program, the FEMBA program here at Graziadio, graduating here in a few months. Greetings, Atalie. Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you for having me, Ty. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so really excited to be on here.
Which is excellent. Now, you did your undergrad at Cal State Long Beach, right? And you've worked in human resources for almost 5 years. Recently took a new job at Mach 49, really recent, like only 2 weeks ago, right?
2 weeks into a brand new role, so very, very new.
Which is brand new. Now, what exactly is Mach 49?
So Mach 49 is a growth incubator. So we're focused on building a pipeline and a portfolio of new ventures for like global 1,000 companies. So a lot of the work that we do, if you think about it, is like bringing the startup within an organization, or what we say is bringing Silicon Valley inside.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. When I hear you say those things, it almost sounds like you guys are kind of like helping companies develop their own internal entrepreneurship program within the department or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, you also serve as the president of the LatinX MBA Conexion, which is a student organization here at Pepperdine Graziadio, and this is actually the first year of the organization. And from what I understand, you guys have put on more than 10 events so far this year.
More than 10 events. The newest organization on campus, growing really fast and really involved with all the student activities.
Which is excellent. And I've been to a number of those events, and you guys do an excellent job, which I think it's a great organization.
Thank you for attending.
Serves its purpose. And we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. First, this new job, this Mach 49. You know, when you take a new job for a number of reasons. A, because you are leaving the person you're working for. B, because the new job pays you more money. C, because it's a better culture. B, because you feel like you can grow professionally and personally in this company. D, because the company is growing. Like there's a bunch of reasons, right? Some internal, some external. But I wonder for you, when you evaluated this company, they interviewed you, you interviewed them, and you made the executive decision to leave. Like what is the biggest immediate experience that you expect to get from this new role at Mach 49?
Yeah, specifically with this job, I was recruited through LinkedIn. So I never heard of Mach 49. Kind of to your earlier question, Mach 49 is also in consulting. So think about it as like growth incubator, but consulting. And I never actually saw myself working in like a consulting firm. But I think the biggest experience that I want to get is I want to be able to, one, influence culture. And the organization is so early on that I have a chance to really do that. But at the same time, we're in an MBA program, and I need to apply everything that I've learned in this MBA program. And I think this is a perfect space to do that. So I think it's a combination of just like my past HR experience, being able to influence culture, and, applying my business skills.
Which is excellent. I'll dive into influence culture a little bit, right? Because that's kind of an area that I'm interested in. So you want to come into a company with what you've learned from the MBA program, what you've learned from your HR experience, and in your own philosophies that you have developed. Take a look at what the culture is. And I assume that they brought you in to help us grow this thing of ours, which is a culture here at Mach 49. Is that something that they've said, yes, we want you to help us expand this and learn how to do this?
Yeah, I think with the interview process, one of the biggest questions, or like the interview style, it was very like behavioral based. So I think when you have an interview that's behavioral based, you are searching for culture. I've talked about my past experience in terms of just like how can you enhance the employee experience, making sure that people feel included when they come to work. And there's always this topic of DEI, right? DEI is a hot topic. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And that is one of the main reasons why, I was hired into this role is, that's a big thing, that they're very passionate about helping to solve the world's biggest problems, but also too, and you think about the venture building world, right. DEI, diversity, it's not strong. If you go and look at venture capital. It's
Stats are horrible.
yeah, stats are awful.
So you come in with that lens and bring that to the table. In the interview, did you say, "Hey, this is what's important to me"? Like, is that something you brought up?
It is, yeah. They asked about it they asked about it. And one of the big things too is like, how can they build a funnel, right, of diverse talent? That's like a big question that a lot of companies are asking. Well, okay, so we know our numbers are bad. What can we do to improve that? And where can we find this talent? So,
Yeah, which is excellent, right? Especially going in knowing that that's something you want to help
of
to
course,
accomplish and
yeah.
go. You mentioned that you were recruited from LinkedIn, so that actually really happens in real life, huh?
Oh, it does.
Like somebody just sent you a message and say, "Hey, would you be like, how did that work? What did happen?"
Yeah. So I'll say I had help from the career development center to kind of really like my LinkedIn. So, I started my job search in January, did some work in terms of like, okay, what should I put in terms of like my work history, what I'm looking for. And then, I just was approached by the company in my LinkedIn message and say, hey, I really love your experience. We have this company in this job position that I think you'd be great for. If you're interested, I'd love to set up a call with you. So it does happen. It happens quite a bit.
Who did you work with in professional development office, the CPD office?
She's no longer with. She's no longer with, but Stacy Bevins was great. And then there's Kenneth Murphy. So he's the director, and he's also worked with me. So they've been great
Oh yeah,
resources.
Kenneth, we've had him on the podcast. He's a big
Oh,
leadership
really?
guy. Yeah,
Yes, I love him, and he has an HR background.
it does. Okay,
Yeah, so he helped
excellent.
me a lot.
Great. Well, I think that's an excellent experience, and to be recruited is an excellent experience. And to see the outcome of here's what you need to do to your LinkedIn profile so people can actually see who you are. Then they saw who you are, and then they reached out to you, and now you're working there doing things that you want to do in terms of culture, DEI, and
Mm-hmm.
helping expand the company, which is an excellent thing. Let's look at the LatinX MBA Conexion, right? President,
LMC.
LMC, right? You are the president of this organization. First year of the organization, not even a year old, actually, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to ask you a series of questions relative to it. But the first one is if you could briefly tell us how the organization started, right? Because if you're on the outside, you're looking in, you're like, why hasn't there been an organization such as this before? Doesn't matter because there's one here now, right? And you guys are doing great things. So tell us about how the organization started less than a year ago.
So I really love this story because, you know, the organization started with our founder. So our founder is Rebecca Gaxiola, and she is an employee of Pepperdine University, but she was also part of the FEMBA program. So me, myself, first year into my MBA program, we were all virtual, right? Trying to navigate this new space of um, distance learning, trying to find connections. So I reached out to Rebecca and I said, "Hey, Rebecca, like, like you seem really great. Like, I want to know, is there anything that I can get involved in on campus? Let me know." And she's like, "No, you can get connected." And specifically, I was looking something like Latinx focused. That's a big passion of mine. That's part of my culture. So she's like, "There's really nothing here. But if I figure out something, like, I'll share some resources with you." So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from her, and she's like, "Hey, like, you said that you're interested in getting more involved. So what do you think if we just start our own organization on campus?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's go. Like, let's do it. Tell me what I need to do. Um, I'm there." So that's kind of how it just started. Is Rebecca is super, super amazing. If you ever had the pleasure of meeting her, her heart is so big, and she's so well connected in school. So she's, like the heart of the foundation of the organization that we started.
So you guys, okay, so you started it.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
We're like, "Hey, okay." So we went through the process of, creating a constitution, bylaws, filling up the essential officer roles that we needed, bringing people along. And then we just started talking about, so what is the mission of the organization, right? Like, what do you want to do? What kind of events do we want to throw? And just taking it from there.
That's an excellent story. Thinking about you and Rebecca and the process you went through, and you come up with a mission, and the mission for a business, organization, family, relationship, partnership, anything, or purpose, right? Why
Mm-hmm.
we exist. is one of the most important things that you can put on paper because everybody has their North Star in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. What exactly is the mission for LMC or purpose, or however you guys word it in terms of the organization?
Yeah, so our mission for the organization is to strengthen diversity, inclusion, and belonging at Pepperdine Business School. And I think ultimately, like the goal is to build a community within the business school, and this was started all by part-time students.
Right. Which is excellent. I think a good organization, and this is from my experience being involved in organizations, even as a president of an organization, is that a good organization has a blend of part time, full
Mm.
time, and different programs because everybody's availability is different. And so you want to try to hit as many people as you can when you put events on so that you can successfully serve your purpose
That's
as an
right.
organization,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So
Yes.
now you're the president. I guess you said, I think you told me offline that Rebecca was the president first. She was the first president.
Yeah, so she was the president when we started. She graduated in December, and so um, one of the requirements for serving is that you still have to be a student. So then I was vice president, and then I took over when she
In
graduated.
January, right? So now you're in this leadership position, right?
Yeah, my
Leadership,
first leadership
the leadership
position.
position. You know, I don't know if it's your first, but we'll dive into that a little bit. But the leadership, right? Leadership is a concept that good leaders are constantly evaluating. You create your habits, you evaluate those habits, and your leadership style may evolve over time. So I wonder about your process for learning how to be a leader. You said this is your first leadership role.
It is.
So how did you learn to be a leader in this role that you're in beyond the title, right?
I am still learning.
Okay.
I am still learning what it means to be a leader. I think that leadership is defined differently for everybody, right? So I think to answer your question, one of the best ways that I can put it, and I know the type of leader I want to be, and I love this quote. They say that make it hard to spot the general by working like a soldier. And so that's how I see leadership to me is just you are there to, I think you said it, we create a space to serve, honestly, to serve your members, to serve your board, to serve everybody. And I think it's the leader's role in order to to create that environment where you can thrive, you can be authentic, and you can accomplish, all the goals that you have and reach your full potential.
So you have your current definition of leadership, right?
Yeah.
Um, you, it's hard to spot a general because they might be working as hard as the soldiers. Tell me that one more time.
It's hard, make it hard to spot the general by working like a soldier, right? So I think you said there's a blend. So I don't want it to be completely obvious, oh, this is the president because it's the title, right? It goes beyond that. I want everybody to be seen as a leader, even though maybe their title isn't president. That's how I see leadership is like you make it hard to spot the general, right? The one that's leading because you're working like everybody else. Like you're in there with everybody. And so your team is just as strong as the leader of the organization.
Exactly. So you learned that philosophy in December before you took over in January.
No.
When did you learn that philosophy?
Right? Probably in the middle of it. Probably would say like 2 months into, taking over the role. I'm like, okay, this seems more natural to me, because I think people can tell you how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, you have to be authentic to yourself. And so that's what feels natural to me.
Did you like research leadership, like how to lead organization, right?
We're in business school.
And then,
I know I've heard I've read books.
Mhm.
I love to listen to podcasts about leadership as well, right? So I take little tips and tricks from there and that helps me, but at the same time it's not until you're in a leadership role where you're like, does this work for me? Right? Someone might say, "Hey, this is what a leader's supposed to do," but if it doesn't feel authentic to yourself, then you can't do it.
I'm asking these questions because it seems the way it's coming across, and I may be wrong, is that you're into this position, and then you said for the first month or two, you are filling out, going through your Rolodex. Well, not Rolodex, it might be a little old. Going through your file cabinet of different things you learned about leadership, and then you land on one, and you realize, you know what, this one right here fits me
Mhm.
well. That's interesting. Before you landed on that one, were you trying other styles of leadership? Like, did you go in like, I'm gonna be a dictator this week,
You know,
next week I'm gonna be?
so I'm really big on feedback. And I think one of the things that I've learned and I've developed, right, is that being a like telling going straight into this role, being a dictator doesn't work. You have to build trust. You have to build rapport, right? And so I'm coming new into this, taking over. I am part of the founding members of the organization, but Rebecca she left some pretty big shoes to fill. And so now you have a team behind you who, started the organization with Rebecca. And I learned really on, it's like, no, I can't just come in and start like, being Atalie, it's like, let's build trust, let's build rapport, learn my leadership style. And I think that's kind of how it evolved.
It worked. Now, when you were an undergrad, high school, amongst your friends, have you ever been the person to be in the lead of anything?
Not officially.
Not without a title. Let's not talk titles, right?
Yeah.
Just the person that steps up and say, maybe we should go this way, or get the feedback from everybody and make a suggestion from that feedback or anything like that.
Yeah, I think I've always been the kind of person like I've I do things, I float to my own boat, So I consider myself to be very bold in the way that I think, my philosophy in life, and just because someone doesn't agree with it doesn't mean that I'm not going to go for it. And so in that sense I would say I have, been a leader, is I'm not okay with just, maintaining the status quo.
Right. And you've had to speak up at
Yeah.
times about
Yeah,
things,
for sure.
even amongst friends or family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot.
So this is not the first time that you're in a leadership role. Maybe it's the first time you had the title, but a title sometimes can mean nothing, right? It's about how you act and what you do as the leader.
I love that.
So I wonder, in sports, we say if we're going to play the game, we might as well keep score, right? And you can dissect that to say if it's worth doing, it's worth evaluating, right? That's just kind of another way of looking at it without making it a competition. So I wonder how you evaluate yourself as a leader thus far.
How would I evaluate
Or
myself?
how do you evaluate yourself, right? It's the constant process of, am I doing good at this thing that I just started doing a few months ago, right? And how am I evaluating whether or not I am leading this organization well, whether or not I am being a good general amongst the soldiers, whether or not I am executing the philosophy that I believe entails a good leader. Like, how do you gauge that?
Yeah, so I think kind of back to what I said in terms of my approach to being a leader is like, I believe that you have to create that space, right, for everyone to thrive. And so I'm going to measure my success as a leader of like how those around me are developing or how are they progressing. So I think about like the board and I think about our members, and I I want to see you do the best version. I want you to be the best version. Are you being vocal? Are you sharing? What are your opinions? Like, I feel like it's my job to just help make those ideas come to life. So far, I mean, I would say that I've done a good job at that. I feel like, one of the big things for me is like, I really do believe that we need to create like a super inclusive environment, right? And that sometimes that's not easy, especially, being on a campus and being a organization that's focused on diversity. And it's had a lot of like tough conversations, like things that we don't necessarily consider to be comfortable. So to that point, I would say that in private and in our events, I see everybody thriving. So I feel like I've done what I wanted to do as I'm learning this new role. Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, everybody, once I graduate, those that are going to stay on, they're the next leader, right?
Yeah, they are the next leader. And I guess a method of evaluating yourself would be to set up a few key questions to ask yourself. Right? Are the people that I am interacting with, or the people I am leading, specifically the officers, right? Because the organization kind of goes as the leadership goes. Are they showing up the best version of themselves? Do they have the resources necessary to execute what we want to execute? Are the goals that we set being hit? Are people willing to come talk to me in a trustworthy environment to where they feel like they're included? Or this is an environment that they want to be a part of, right? you don't have to use those questions, but whatever the questions are, make them to a point to where you can ask yourself these questions at any point over the next few months while you're still president, and they will still be questions that you can evaluate in the moment, not necessarily by what happened 3 months ago, but what's happening now. 2 weeks ago, I asked those same questions. I'm evaluating, am I still doing this right? So I think, of course, I am an interviewer, so questions are
No,
my
no, no.
thing, right?
Yeah. No, those are good questions.
Yeah.
Those are good questions that I can ask myself, you
Ask
know?
yourself, right?
Yeah.
And other ones, right? Come up with other ones that
Of
fit into
course.
what you're doing.
Right.
But yeah, ask yourself the questions, right? How are you evaluating? What an evaluation is, a test, survey. You're just asking questions, right? And so I'm an introspection guy, right?
There we go.
And I
Yeah.
think that
Yep.
the world needs more
Introspection.
introspection. Specifically, the United States needs a whole lot more introspection.
Agree.
And so you ask those questions of yourself and how well am I doing? I'll ask this last question or two and then we'll wrap. Thinking about your experiences in the FEMBA program, the LatinX program, even the previous 5 years working in human resources, I wonder about some of those experiences that possibly you feel like can help you or have helped you or are helping you in your career and possibly in life, personal, professional development, social interaction, whatever it is. What are some of the things that have helped you, I guess, develop into a purposeful leader or use purposeful leadership, or specifically things that you just feel like will help you in your career as you keep moving on our personal life? Hopefully that question made sense. I feel like it was long.
No, there's like so many parts to it, you know, but I'm gonna do my best to answer it. So I think to your point, or to your question, sorry, is my experience in the FEMBA program has been transformational, right? Um, I started off I am naturally like an introverted person, but I think, you know, the program, it's a journey, right? When you're going through your MBA, it's a journey and you're not supposed to stay the same. It's supposed to test you, you're supposed to grow. And so I have definitely changed like my completely like the way I use my voice, both personally and professionally. And that's something that I learned through this program. And so with that, I am taking that now, this newfound voice that I had, this voice that I also discovered that I didn't know I had through this Latinx organization, being in a leadership role and taking that into my career. You know, I think one of the things about the Latinx organization is diversity is huge. I think there's a lot that corporate America can do better. And so now that I've found, okay, sometimes things that I didn't bring to the table because I was too scared to bring up, I'm going to bring it to the table
Right off the
now.
bat, I hear you.
You know, like that's what I'm bringing to my career. And I do want to leave it better than I found it. That's the goal. That's the purpose, you know, to serve and to be, if anything, is to like be a trailblazer for other people. You know, sometimes we don't necessarily see ourselves. I'm first generation. You know, I'm a daughter of immigrants and I've had to navigate a lot of waters on my own. And, you know, I want to bring others with me. And so all of that I learned as a purposeful leader with the values of Pepperdine and taking that on to my career.
Yeah, which is excellent. Pepperdine, Latinx MBA Conexion,
Mm-hmm.
right? The experiences you have, the thoughts and philosophies you developed in order to serve or to summit, like you summarized it, which I felt like I've tried to do too, is to leave people, places, and things better than you found them, right? Which is excellent. Atali,
Atalie, yes.
this has been an excellent conversation, and I really appreciate you joining us on the Business of Creativity podcast.
You know what? I would say that you helped um like unravel some creative like in me, and right? And so that's the business of creativity. And so I'm thankful for that and this conversation. So I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. That was Atalie Oliva. She is in the fully employed MBA program, and she is also the president of the Latinx MBA Conexion, or LMC, here at Pepperdine Graziadio. And of course, this is Ty Brown with the Business of Creativity podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pepperdine Graziadio School of Business. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today?